And we are live. Welcome back to How to Become a Better Malifaux Player. Your host, Mario, known as Mars, and my co-host.
What's up, guys? It's Alex here.
We're back after a long break because we have some other announcement, but we're going to announce that in a different video. But we're back, and before we actually start the topic, How to Become a Better Malifaux Player, the topic today is, what is it, Alex?
Today's topic is talking all about gaining grounds and the differences between 2014 and 2015's packet. They came out with five new strategies for 2015, and so there's some pretty hefty changes that people who don't attend tournaments may or may not be aware of. So we're going to go over those and the changes that people need to adapt to in order to play these new strategies.
Right. So before we start, as always, the show is sponsored by Monkey Sword Games. And also now we have our own company. What is it, Alex?
Absolutely. Mats by Mars. It's got a little bit of press lately. They are vinyl mats with very colorful landscapes printed on them, along with our very own Victorian horror grid lines, which are the schemes, strategies, and deployment zones for Malifaux. And so they're very faint. They're very nice. They sit in the background. When you need them, you're like, ha, there's line in the sand right there. So the big selling point here is that they're durable and they're on a budget. They're only, well, we have a link at the bottom of the video that you can go check out our site, but they are very affordable. So mats by Mars.
That's our motto. High gaming mats that fits your budget, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we've already mentioned our sponsors, and let's just dive into it. So, if you've never heard of gaining grounds, usually that means one, either your henchman hasn't organized a tournament around your area, or two, you haven't been reading the weird forums or any other weird news a lot. Gaining grounds are basically a set of strategies that are given, and this is like standardized internationally. There's 5 sets of strategies that you can. I mean, when you play, it's randomized in the beginning, and you gain victory points off of it. From 2014, there was Reckoning, there was Reconnoiter, there was...
Come on, Mario.
I got it. Turf War, and Squatter's Right. And also, if you flip the Joker, it's going to be Stake a Claim.
There you go.
Now, with the new 2015 Gaining Ground rules, we have 5 new ones. I'm just gonna briefly mention it first, and then me and Alex are gonna discuss it. So, if you flip a ram, it's gonna be extraction. If you flip a mask, it's interference. If you flip a tome or book or whatever you want to call it, because a lot of people call it differently, is headhunter. If it's a crow, it's guard the stash, and if it's a joker's, it's collect the bounty. We're gonna start with the first one. If you flip a ram, it's going to be extraction. I'm not going to read the whole thing because you can always find it on the weird download part, for Gaining Grounds 2015. But basically, it is very similar to what Turf War is. And instead of that center 6-inch bubble stays in the middle, it actually moves to whoever scores. Whoever has the most models within 6 inches of that marker in the center. So you get 1 victory point at the end of the turn when you have more than 2 models in, but then whoever has the most model gets to place that 30mm marker 3 inches anywhere they want without touching any other models or markers. So Alex, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a variation on Turf War. Everyone always likes Turf War. You meet in the middle and just beat each other's brains in. This changes the philosophy a little bit because now you have more incentive to send more than just 2 big resilient things to the middle or a couple of killy things to the middle and hope for the best, because both teams can still score their victory points every turn. It just depends, okay, how far into enemy territory are you willing to go to do it? I personally tend to stick to my resilient beaters, but I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. Let's go over schemes first. Whenever you see this scheme or strategy on the table, you're like, okay, what are you going to pick as far as scheme pool? I mean, granted, there's 20 schemes. We're not going to go over all of them, but I tend to enjoy making my opponent choose. Are you going to make me chase, or am I going to make you chase other scheme runners and kind of keep your focus away from moving that scoring bubble in the middle? Or is it just going to be a big monkey pile in the middle and hope for the best? Things like distract and cursed object really make this job easy because, again, you meet in the middle, everyone gets free points, everyone's excited. So throwing one of your schemes, like if they're both in the pool, maybe going with one of those easy kills and then maybe one breakthrough, plan evidence or something that pulls your attention away from the bubble is something I like to do, just because that way I run a diverse crew so I can get away from the middle bubble and maybe score some points that my opponent won't be able to score. So that's kind of my only sticking point. Otherwise, if it's like plant explosives and cursed object, it's like, cool, 10 points for everyone. So that's my overall scheme strategy. What about your scheme strategy, Mario?
I'm a little different. I like the the two big resilient model or your beaters in there, but I prefer the killy ones. So instead of pulling models out of, I try to kill models that's inside. So make them suffer usually, or assassination, or kill protege. If they're in there, because I know usually the bigger models or the annoying models in the centers are usually either henchmen or their masters.
Sure.
To keep them in there. I just had a game about a week or two ago where at the end of turn 1, all of my enemies' models are in that 6-inch bubble. I mean, for me, the thing that differentiate this from Turf War is once you've lost that first 3-inch placement, it's an uphill battle. It's a lot harder. So I rather have killy stuff and kill things instead of spreading out or putting your little models in there or pulling their models out of the way. But that's my take on it.
Sure. For me, I mean, I'll try to speak on this from a non-10 Thunders point of view. I know that I've warped Mario into a 10 Thunders player. I myself am a big fan, so I'll try to be a little more general as far as what other people might want to do. But I like to bring, as far as model selection, I will bring maybe something that's a little more resilient, something with a little more clout, and then some ranged models that might hang out on the very lip of that 6-inch range from the marker. So you get some guys plugged in to be your front line, and then some ranged models that can maybe be a threat or with 12-inch range hail to the other side of the bubble. And that way, it kind of you have options, and you can kind of be area denial for any other enemy that's coming towards you.
Yeah, because one thing that you have to remember is you don't have to be completely within. You just have to be touching that 6-inch.
Absolutely. That is the glory of within, is any place within. So that's really where I like to be as far as this is concerned. Otherwise, it's really just Turf War. And I play Turf War the same way. I'll send schemes somewhere else and see if you can multitask your crew. But that's my theme for extraction, really. I mean, after this third turn, generally, unless I've never had an extraction game go back and forth. Normally, once it starts to slide one direction, if you place the marker, like not just deeper into your territory, but like say you're going straight to the middle but slanting slightly left, then you bring the marker slightly left, dragging it into your guys. Or say you have a gun line that is going slightly left, then you place the marker slightly right, and they have to choose between going after your gun line and pulling themselves out of the 6-inch bubble, or going and scoring the victory points and getting shot to death and not scoring.
Which fits perfectly to the theme, because you're supposed to extract someone from the center, or save someone or whatever, right?
I think that's the fluffy part. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's our second one?
Yeah, our next one is interference. Interference is a scheme or a strategy that is much like the old reconnoiter, that's the table quarters. You have to claim table quarters with more non-peon models than your opponent. However, engaged models do not count. And this is a very interesting twist. It sounds kind of bland on paper. And I got to say, when I read it, and I know a lot of other people, when they read it, they're like, is that really a big enough change? Yes, it's huge. Once you get it on the table the first time, it is considerably different because unless you have some way, unless you're assured the kill, you're just going to get stuck in, and you will both be denying your opponent, but you're denying yourself that corner as well, which is kind of a big deal. So as far as my scheme choices here, I like ones that don't really require me to be close to you, because this is one where I will not take something like Cursed Object or a Distract, plant explosives, stuff like that, unless I know that they're going to be swarming me or something like that, because I don't want to deny myself those chances. I want to go for something that doesn't involve my enemy. So this is a good option for me to take Line in the Sand. It has that 6-inch bubble in the middle of denial that your models don't count in. So I will take something like Line in the Sand and place my scheme markers in that bubble. So it's like, okay, you have to go into the bubble, deny yourself some corner claiming, and I'll just go ahead and go on my merry way. At least for some of my markers. So that's where I'll go with that. I'll talk about models in a minute, but what about your schemes, Mario?
For me, let's look at it in a general sense first, because I played this once only, and at first, in the beginning of the turn, I realized that, oh, this is just recon, like you said, it's just like recon. But then I started playing it, and like towards a couple of turns, I started realizing like once you're engaged, you don't count. That one model, it cancels it out. So example, models like Cooligans, where usually they're parked over there just to claim a quarter, or my Guildhounds are usually there just to park, just park there, knowing that they're hidden, they're height 1, no one can reach them. I'm just gonna keep running around until they catch me or add more dogs or whatever. As soon as they're engaged, they're done. It's not a point anymore, or it's not a claim of a quarter. So that's one big thing that I noticed, the big difference between that and Reconnoiter. So, but scheme-wise, usually for these, I tend to do the ones that makes me spread out, like Protect Territory, and or Plant Evidence, or and then I would try to bluff them out with the Plant Explosives, usually, or Breakthrough, the one that I can, I need to be on the other side, or I need to be on my side, usually. So I'm spread out. But you did bring out a really good point on the fact that if you do Line in the Sand in the center, and they would have to go into that 6-inch bubble, because I didn't even think about that.
yeah, then it's just, oh, great, that's annoying. I have to go after that. For me, my model choices on this one are things with large engagement ranges, so you can capitalize. Okay, I'm going to, 10 Thunders or Rezzers, throw Izamu out there, stuff that's sticky. It's hard to get away from, plus flips, plus melee, whatever on disengaging strikes. Send that out there and just grab onto as many models as you can. The Depleted is also a very seldom used for me, but in this strat I'll actually take it just because they move and they hold on, and then when they explode, free Brilliance, which is amazing if you're playing Witch. Also, Guild Pathfinder and things that are peon heavy. The reason Pathfinder is, of course, for the traps, because that's why you take a Pathfinder. But traps have saved me this a number of times with Reset the Trap. So you've got a group of your enemy who might be bunched up within a 4-inch diameter bubble. So you just reset the trap, move your trap 6 inches, park it right in the middle of their dudes, and now none of them count.
Yeah,
so they might have 4 guys in a corner, and now you've negated them all for the turn. Congratulations. Also, stuff like Hamlin or Peon Heavy Crews, where you can throw rats out there. Okay. Or even stuff that doesn't have an engagement range. So Thunder Archers or any of those guys that don't have a melee, that's okay. Engagement's a 2-way street. So as long as your opponent has a melee range, great, you're both engaged. So you move that ranged guy up instead of attacking, and now you've denied him something. Your rats engage people. Cool. Now they're engaged, they don't count, and you could care less. So those peon heavy crews are really good for this. It also will affect your schemes, of course, because peon heavy crews, some schemes, of course, don't apply. But that's the balancing act, of course, of Malifaux in general. So choosing the right schemes, but that's what I like for this strategy is the peon heavies, the traps, and things with large engagement ranges.
Well, speaking with other factions, there's a reason why Ramos is always very successful with Reconnoiter, and you can see why, because you just have a bunch of small point models, or you can summon small point models and spread them out, and if you can engage as many people, like those models are the ones that you don't really care they die because they can always just come back, or you can summon them back. Yeah, so engages with as many as possible, and that's how you get points.
Yep. You gotta have some left over though. So summoners are also very good in this one, as long as you can just kind of litter the field with stuff. So, yeah. Next.
So going with the third one, Headhunter. This is actually one of my favorite ones out of the new one. I generally like the killy ones for some odd reason. Well, not odd, but pretty.
Okay.
So whenever a model kills an enemy model, or any model actually, as long as kills or sacrifice a non-peon model, they would drop their heads.
No. It has to be an enemy.
Oh, it has to be an enemy. Okay.
Yes, that it considers an enemy.
Okay, and the acting model will drop a 30mm head marker 3 inches away, and cannot be touching any other markers or any models. The big thing here is the one that's acting. That means the attacker gets the place where the head goes.
That's real big.
Yeah, and whoever picks up the head, if you pick up one head at the end of the turn, at least you get 1 point, and anybody can pick up the head.
Right, and you can only score 1 victory point per turn on this. So if you have one really awesome killing turn, that doesn't help you, because you've now littered the field, and everyone can pick up a head. And so what do you think for schemes on this one then?
For schemes, generally I like doing things, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Make them suffer, assassination, everything that's killy. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that? But at the same time, if you're kind of iffy about your crew selection, which we're probably going to discuss in a little bit, you want to split up, one scheme as being killy, the other one as being the distraction to, make the opponent don't think that you have all killy.
All right. So I'm, of course, going to break the mold here and not go with just killing. There's 2 schools of thought, of course. Killing is good. Getting that assassinate in, you're going to have plugged-in models, so if you can get some plant explosives or whatnot off before it goes off, or kill protege and all that stuff, that's all fine and good. But let's focus on one part of this strategy that a lot of people just kind of look over because it's very straightforward. It reads very quickly. And okay, kill. Gotcha. Okay, allow me a second to talk about Adepticon, where I played in a very challenging game versus a man named Victor, very accomplished player. Good time, good game. And what we went with was I went with McCabe. Now, Deliver the Message was in the pool, and so was Protect Territory. Both of these decidedly not killy, and not really all that distracting either. So we deploy, and I take a couple of dogs. I think I took the Killjoy delivery system just in your honor, Mario. I know that's a favorite. And what happened was I had a very low model count to his guild crew that had a very high model count. I believe he was playing Perdita, yes. So turn 2, Deliver the Message because I botched it turn 1. Stuff happens. I forgot the Black Flash and no reactivate for me. All right, well, turn 2, I Deliver the Message, and then, so that's 3 points. But the thing that you need to look at here for Headhunter is you have to be considered an enemy in order to drop a head marker. So what does my opponent do? Victor kills off one of the dogs. That's cool. Drops a head marker. All right. I end up getting up there, grabbing a head marker or two, just in the melee back and forth, and then I run all my stuff away. Or I started killing all my own models because he also declared deliver the message, but he had nothing that he could get across the table with, and he declared protect territory. So by the math of Malifaux, I scored 3 for deliver the message, and then I was trying to deny him as many strategic points as possible, and so I killed all my own models, so he couldn't score any more strategy, and then I ran everything away, and McCabe killed himself because he reactivates, sacrifices himself, and thanks for coming out. So he can't deliver the message, he can't get any more head counters, and so then Killjoy just sat back in my right corner, and mathematically, we came out with a tie, and that was great. But like, it was an out of the box kind of solution. That, remember, if you can accomplish your schemes and then die without dropping any heads, you immediately take 4 points or so off of your enemy's, capable list. So they have to get to 6, which might be difficult.
I do have not a counter, but like an overthought of it, because maybe this is the first time I ever do, but you can't gain 10 points doing that though.
No, but you don't need to win 10 points in order to win the game.
I know, but differential kind of matters when it comes to.
It does, but when you're getting towards the end, I mean, I hear this a lot. I've heard Aaron say it. I've heard some of our folks across the pond say it, that Americans really a lot of times play for 10 points. And if you're going against a crew, you're not sure if you're even going to pull out the W. Sometimes that 3 tournament points is going to be far more important than the differential.
True. You hear that, Ted? Don't always go for 10 points.
So that's my approach to Headhunter. You can go kill, but don't be afraid to do something outside the box, because you can do cool things. Cool. So anything else on that one, Mario?
No, you pretty much always go outside the box, and I've even I gotta keep my eye open for that now.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a surprise. So guard the stash.
Hold on, before we move on. Is there anything that we can compare this to the old Gaining Grounds at all?
Not really.
This is pretty unique, right?
I mean, it's probably the most killy one next to Reckoning. But it's a 2-step, actually kind of a 3-step process compared to Reckoning. Reckoning is just walk forward, kill stuff, yay! Yeah. Where this one is kill stuff, place marker, move to marker, pick up marker.
Yeah, if you can pick up.
If you can pick it up. And so there's a lot more steps involved. It's not as easy. I guess I didn't really talk about the other general crew building guideline here, is that sometimes I'll take like a generally killy crew, resilient crew, because I don't want to be dropping heads. And if I'm not going to be doing something out of the box, then I'll have like some fast models or something, like 1 or 2 Tengu, Guildhounds, Kruligans, something that'll run up and be able to just snatch that marker and either run away or whatnot, and they'll just kind of be a support role to make sure my beaters don't have to waste AP. So, I mean, that's something you'll want to include 1 or 2 of, and just make sure that you remember these guys pick up heads. Do not get them frontlined, or once they've outlived their usefulness, sure, go ahead and kill them off, but they might drop more heads.
Yeah, and models like the one that can interact out of their action point, or the one that can interact with 0 points, or the one that can interact when they're engaged, like Performer, is super great in this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, everything with free pushes is amazing in this year's thing.
Well, another side of the strategy is you can actually have your opponent kill one of your model, drop the head, make sure that you pick up that head.
Well, if you out-activate them, for sure.
Yeah.
If you out-activate them and it's getting to the end, you might throw a sacrificial something at them and then hope they get bloodthirsty, kill it, and then one of your models sneaks in and picks up his own head. And because it doesn't matter whose head it is, it's just like, cool, stuff it in a bag,
That might actually work on me.
Yes, it would.
All right, what's the next one?
All right. Next up, we've got Guard the Stash, which is kind of like Turf War Part 2. There's 2 stashes, and you have to have they're on opposing sides of the center line, 5 inches away, and you have to have at least one non-peon model within 2 inches of each stash in order to score your point. So it's Turf War, but it's split up. All right. So that's a good one to do. As far as my scheme selection here, this one's a little more interesting because you can either decide to run forward and tank up and try to hold both of them with a force on both sides, or what I see more often happen is you kind of centralize on one and then you send kind of couriers over to make sure you get the other one. So as far as scheme selection, a lot of the like claim your ground kind of things. If you want
territory.
Huh?
Protect territory.
Yeah. Well, protect territory is always seen a lot, but I mean, like anything that plants scheme markers in a general vicinity, the plan evidence, what's the word I'm looking for? Even power ritual, because then you can send one model, and it depends on deployment, because your deployment, if it's corners, is always good for power ritual. But if it's both sides, then you can send people up both sides, and if you feel like they're not going to accomplish their main objective, or they need to duck back and pick up Guard the Stash for a turn, they can, and then continue on their way. That's what I go for schemes. A lot of the scheme marker dropping, not a lot of the killing, unless my matchup tells me that I'll be able to kill dudes. So like that is something that is my opponent's crew dependent, not strat dependent. If I feel that I can just dominate them with my crew, then yeah, you take the killy schemes. But that's kind of what you do with killy schemes.
With this one, I actually have to agree with you. Like, there's nothing that I would have done differently, because Guard the Stash, I would probably pick something that drops scheme markers and protect territory. Maybe not as killy as the other 3 strategies so far. I think you summed up pretty great. But let's talk about the crew selection if you have choices.
Yeah, crew selection, I'll generally go a lot more ranged on this one in order to kind of lob at the other side to deny them their chances at this. But the problem is that the markers for Guard the Stash, and this is important, this came up a good number of times at Adepticon, in friendly games and competitive games alike. Those stash markers are 50 mil markers that are height 5, blocking, impassable, hard cover. So
they're like pillars.
Yeah, they're giant ice pillars, basically. Better than ice pillars. And so you can hide behind them, you can nest in, and depending on what kind of a board you're playing on, I played on one board that the stash marker was right next to a building corner. So basically, the 2 guys who were claiming it for both of us were like tucked into the corners behind the pillars, and they couldn't see each other, but they were less than an inch away. So I mean, you got to remember you can hide those guys, but that's why I like the ranged aspect or incorporeal, is stuff can reach through, either reach out and touch someone or go through it and get to an opponent. That's how I'll generally work my crew selection. Resilient things, yeah, they're good. I'll probably take more things rather than a couple big beatery things, because again, with this one, both opponents can score, so just having something in their face doesn't necessarily help you unless it's a lot more of a beater.
Cool. Well, you already mentioned that it's something similar to the old one is basically a split up turf war, but it's smaller bubble instead of the 6-inch bubble.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to go over the last one. This is actually my favorite, and pretty obvious why, out of the 5. But it doesn't come out as much. It's Stake a Claim doesn't come out as much, and this one is as well, because there's only 2 cards out of the 54.
Yeah.
It is Collect the Bounty. Basically, it's very, very killy. Every time you kill or sacrifice an enemy model, you score bounty points. Masters are 4 points, henchmen are 3 points, enforcers are 2, minions are 1, and peons are 0. And whoever, after turn 2, whoever has the most points actually scores that point. That the similarity of stake a claim is only ends up like right there, because there's only one side that's can score a point. So what do you think of this, Alex?
This one, as far as schemes go, I will actually not do my normal, can you multitask thing, because normally that means someone's going off on their own. They're kind of unsupported, and basically that means you're going to run over, pick it off, and pick up a bounty point for the turn, unless you have a heavy peon crew, which I don't play any of those really. So you got to really watch those bounties. I don't run. I'll run the killing things, but most of the in-tight things like plant explosives and frame for murder is a favorite here, obviously. A lot of the schemes that just cause you to be in close, just go ahead. This is my go for broke, kill the other guy strategy. I will jump on the bandwagon and push your models forward and see what bloodbath happens.
For me, my favorite on this is deliver the message, frame for murder, and Killjoy delivery system. Done.
So not surprised, but yeah,
that's easy mode.
It is, because I mean, especially if the scheme pool allows you to take interact actions that close, like for plant, distract, cursed. It's like, all right, well, that model is going to be a nuisance, so you're gonna have to kill it. So
either you kill it or you're gonna get murdered. So
yeah, or you can kill it yourself. So depending on the model. That's my scheme thoughts. As far as non-Killjoy delivery systems, my model selections here, I will avoid henchmen generally, unless they're very resilient henchmen like Toshiro, or I'll use mechanics like Huggy, Eternal Huggy, basically. The Rising Sun, because he doesn't die, he goes in the box. And so that way you never give up that henchman slot. Enforcers are only 2 points, and a lot of enforcers can take out 2 minions. That's, not a big deal. So enforcers at 2 points apiece are not that bad. So I'll generally go with an enforcer heavy crew, or very resilient or tricky henchmen that have goals. But if it's some kind of henchman that will get up in their face and probably get cut down, I'll leave them at home, because we all know that I like to run my crews very Soulstone light. So using
what Soulstone?
Yeah, I play Lynch, so 1 stone, you got it. Put it in the machine, pull the arm, see what happens. So using a bunch of stones for damage prevention just isn't my style. So that's where I'll be with crew selection, and making sure that you don't overkill is the big linchpin here, because you can only score the bounty, and just like last year with the stake a claim, only 1 person scores the victory point per turn on this one, because last year stake a claim, only 1 person scores per round as well. So if you're beating them, stop. Like, wound stuff up, fine. You need to cheat down to not kill it, fine. Unless it's like a model you like, the doppelganger, and you're like, no, you're not cheating initiative again, I'm not dealing with it, die. That's fine. But don't overkill until next turn, because then you'll get next turn's points as well. So that's an important distinction to make.
Yeah, something that you got to think ahead of, 2, 3 turns ahead of time, basically. For me, crew selection wise, other than the Killjoy delivery system, I agree that I would probably bring a little bit more enforcers, but I don't really play with a lot of enforcers, because when I play McCabe, there's a lot of minions or peons. It's just distributed evenly, and then they spread out. But in this time, if I have to use something other than the delivery system, I would probably bring like a couple of resilient model, like Izamu, for example. Well, if I'm playing 10 Thunders, or Peacekeeper, and then Cain that can buff them up a little bit, or anything to keep them a little bit more resilient in the middle and distract them a little bit more. And if scheme wise, if there's distract or curse object, then I would probably try to give it to them. But I'm not gonna take both distract or it's either or, because I want one of them to be killy so that I can kill two birds with one stone, and the other one to be distracting. Not I don't most of the time I don't really like putting all my eggs in one basket.
Sure, and that might be a good plan. Like if you do notice that you think you're going to take the turn for bounty points, having something like Distract or Cursed, where you can be like, okay, I can still move up, I can take my interact action and still accomplish victory points, but not kill them too quickly.
Yeah, keep them alive a little bit longer. Yeah,
that's always the balancing act here, is because you don't want to overkill just because you can, even though it's fun for the victory points.
Kill.
Yeah.
Well, that was all the 5 new Gaining Ground 2015 strategies. In general, Alex, what do you think of it?
Final thoughts here. This is really the Gaining Grounds document for free movement and pushes and extra AP. I mean, last year we saw kind of some run up and sit, like squatters' rights. Like you did there. Let me go ahead and say, yes, free movement, free AP is always huge. It's always very helpful, but it's not critical. And I feel like this year we don't have things like Reckoning and Squatters' Rights where you can apply an action and just immediately gain victory points. Everything has a caveat. You have to pick up the head marker. You have to, collect the bounty being an outlier there. But everything else, with interference, okay, did you get engaged? Like everything has an extra little hiccup where if you can move out of it for free, or you can prompt someone else to move out of it, or you get a free push that you can either use a push on your own dudes or use it offensively, like your crew is so much more in a better place than things that are kind of singular to themselves. In a lot of ways, like I target Guild as in some ways having a little bit harder time unless you're on the Ostringer path or stuff like that, like, or Perdita with all her pushes and stuff. But a lot of the models that are just, they act kind of on their turn and do their thing, and they don't really apply on another opponent's turn or something, that they're kind of at a little disadvantage, in my opinion. Because unless they have the free pushes, they're kind of a step behind, depending on what faction you're playing against.
Right. That's pretty much sums it up. Like, the only thing that kind of bothers me a little bit about the new ones, I was getting used to the old one.
Well, change is difficult, yes.
Yes. If you're not used to it, you're not in the tournament scene. I don't get to play a lot, but whenever I play, I always play in a tournament. And when I don't play in a tournament, it's a Vassal game. And that's my only practice time because I don't really go to local game stores. That's going to change soon, by the way. So for me, it was just changes. And I have to basically tailor my crew again let's say if you are just starting a new faction and you're just learning the strategy to win points, and then suddenly everything changes again, and you're like, what?
Well, see, I think it keeps you thinking, it keeps you moving, and on top of that, nothing invalidated last year's Gaining Grounds. You can always work them back in. As a henchman, I like to work the old ones back in just to kind of tag back to say, hey, don't forget about those now. You got to remember how those strategies work. And so, I generally only run 3-round tournaments, so I'll do 2 new ones and 1 old one in various orders. So, you can play whichever one you like, but I think they're all still very valid. They should all still be applied, and they all have their merits. So, kudos to Weird for the back, having a new rotation and a classic rotation included, because it makes a lot of things easier for henchmen and for players going to a tournament. If they know, the month, they can figure out what's going to be played, at least strategy-wise, so they can kind of think ahead about their crew selection and what they're going to need to bring.
Yeah, because they're all split up into seasons, like 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. And there's a rotation for it. And then if you can choose between the classics, they call it the classic, which is last year's ones, and the 2015. Now, I see this being as 5 sets of 5, meaning they would be flipping a card to see which set they're going to use, and then flipping a second card to figure out what strategy is going to come up.
Oh, no, I don't do that. Use because it gives you a round 1, round 2, round 3 suggestion. So
yeah, I mean, the official rules, they give you suggestions.
Okay.
But let's say in the future, in, I don't know, 3 years from now, and they have 5 different sets of new gaining ground strategies, you know, there's a way to randomize it. Again, as a TO, it is at your mercy to choose which one you want to use.
Sure.
But they do have official rules for which one to use every, 3 months and the year?
Yeah, every quarter.
Yeah.
So, good stuff.
But yeah, that is the end of the show. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, once again, the sponsor of the show is Monkey Sword Games. That's where I actually buy my Malifaux stuff now. Joe is surprisingly a wizard. His prices are really low compared to other online sources, and definitely lower than local retail stores. And his shipping is fast.
And his customer service and communication is amazing. So keep up the good work. Go check him out and let us know what you think.
The link is down below, Monkey Sword Games, and of course, our own company, Mats by Mars.
Shameless.
Down below. Yeah.
Thanks.
Once again, this is Mars and my co-host,
Alex, what's up?
Talk to you guys later.